Oh God!
They were looking for a name for their new assembly.
Did I press the
So
wrong
it has
button again?
proposed the known and verifiable
Alexa,
representative.
pause. I got this little. Nice. I'm wasting my money, but I mean, it's just a tiny little thing. It was like maybe $5. I mean, seven? Maybe it was four. It was like really cheap. I remember thinking, well, how big could it be? When it came, it was tiny, but it's really sharp, and I use it to cut up carrots and cauliflower, and it actually works really well because you can press on it, and it's very sharp. Other ones aren't for whatever reason. They don't do the job quite as well. But this, you can cut bread with it. I mean, it's really very practical. All right. I haven't made any speeches, or I don't know why I do it. Nobody watches my things, and they're probably not. You can watch me pick my nose. Damn it. Will that get me banned? Is that obscene? My nostrils pick. I mean, that. I'm sorry you had to watch that, but it really itched. I have diabetes, and my skin. I don't know if you can. Here, let's just go through all of them, okay? I had a problem with my pensions and investments. Something about, I don't know if things are means tested or what, because I do get some. Some are private, and others aren't. And I guess in some systems there are, but it was a glitch, and it was a glitch. When it wasn't. I'll be honest with you. I can pretend that 665 3. What is it? I can't imagine living on that. That so no one could live on that. I mean, the private pension's a lot more, but thank God. Maybe that's it. Maybe it'd be more. Maybe it would be more if I didn't have other forms of income, and this is just like a supplemental thing. But I paid into the Social Security system for 40 years. See, they haven't privatized the Social Security system in the United States, but in a lot of countries they have, or at least partially privatized. And what that means is you, like 20 years ago, you can choose either to put it all in the state system, or you can actually have a fund where you either invest your own money, or I guess in Australia you have a stock advisor. And that has, I wouldn't say minor problems. It has serious problems because people, these appointed advisors sometimes hit people with exorbitant fees. But all in all, I mean, I don't think it should be completely privatized because in Australia, if you don't invest, I think you're supposed to, but if you say you're bouncing around from jobs and you don't have a guild, or like you're in the bartenders union, or the knitters union, or the doctors union, or the steelmakers union, or the auto assembly line workers union, or the gardeners union, or the automobile mechanics union, or the electricians guild, or whatever. Every association, say the podiatrist in some society, and I guess in the Netherlands, every society, whether you're a gardener or a doctor or an accountant or an interior decorator, there are voluntary associations, and they all have pension programs. And to a certain significant extent, you're required to pay into them. And the state-run Social Security system it's just bare bones. It's like for people that fall through the cracks and for whatever reasons don't create a pension program. Maybe like the American supplemental SSI program. It's welfare, you know. Social Security in America, I'm pretty familiar with it. You pay into it. You get more, and that's your money. You paid into it. You paid into an insurance program. It's like if you have a private health care and you get sick, So you never get sick, and you go, well, what did I pay all that money for? I want it back. He says, no, it doesn't work that way. That's not how insurance works. You get it when you need it, and that was the agreement you agreed to. And I guess mandatory programs, people say, well, I never agreed to that. Well, I think in order for societies to be stable, you have to have something. Socialists want it all run by the state because they don't want anybody having, and I guess extreme people like libertarians think it should all be voluntary. If you don't want to invest, then fine. Um, you won't be a burden on the state because there are no state programs. You'll just be destitute and you'll start. Maybe if a church takes pity on you, that's the way it was. And you can say that there's a fairness to that or whatever, and I suppose there is, but I don't think it's fair. I mean, should stupid people be allowed to starve to death? Should drunk drivers be allowed to drive around drunk? Everything you do affects everybody around you. So that's why, say in the Singapore system, it's not private. There is a provident trust. You're required to keep your money. It's not redistributive. It's your money in a private fund, provident trust. And when you retire or buy a house or need health care or to educate your kids, the money's there for you, and it works pretty well. I remember talking to one young lady. She said, I turned 30. I told them I wanted my own apartment. How much was it going to cost me? Where do I go to look for it? And they maybe wait a month or two. And I thought, well, geez, a whole month, 2 months. They're not even. And then finally, they came back to me, and they said, "Would you mind living in building Palm Tree C or whatever it is?" And you go and look around, and they make sure it's multicultural. They make sure it's the opposite of segregation, and they did that to prevent race riots, and evidently it works. People are forced to get along with each other. Maybe they can do that in the Middle East with the make the Palestinians and the Israelis live right next door to each other. I'm sure neither of them would like that, but I mean, unfortunately, I think Yasser Arafat said it 40 years ago, and it really rings true. The Israelis or the Jews, the Zionists, because not all Jewish people are Zionists. I thought they were. I thought all Jews supported Israel, and it's not the same case. It's like it's a stereotype, like all Palestinians or people in Gaza support Hamas. That's not true. It might be in a majority. It might not. Did all Germans support Hitler? On some level, he got 40% of the vote, whether some of that was reluctant or not, or like with Trump. Are all Trump supporters like fervent, rabid, crazy people? He's got like 40% of the population. So it's like in history, if Trump takes dictatorship, they're going to say, well, Americans all supported him. Well, no. He had 40%, and part of that 40% is people that just think, well, it's like fascists. It's like they looked at the communists. That's why the Pope and a lot of religious people supported fascism. They didn't really trust it. They felt it might be godless itself, or pagan, or atheistic. Mussolini was an atheist. Hitler was an ambivalent Catholic. Like, what do the Jews say? I'm culturally Jewish. There are people that are just culturally Catholic. There are people like me, I for better or for worse, that are culturally Protestant. As hard as I try to avoid it, I've got that waspy attitude, even though I'm very hostile to religion. I hate evangelical Christians with a violent passion. Liberal Protestants, not so much. They're okay with me, but they're a dying breed. People just seem to be so either they're militant atheists or they're rabid evangelical Christians, and we're losing the middle. I'd like to have, as I reach old age, some sort of faith. Whether or not there's what did Voltaire say? Even if there wasn't a God, we'd have to invent one. I'm afraid of dying. I'm very much afraid of dying. I tell people I'm not, but I think it's that yin and yang thing. Sometimes it's like, oh, come on. I wake up and I go, oh, am I here for another day? Am I? Okay, where's my hamburger? Did they deliver it yet? Jones is approaching here with the order from Rallies. You know what? Alexa, play Audible. You can listen to Audible for a while. I'm going to go and see if my hamburger's here.
Selection from Audible.
Just listen to Audible.
The French Revolution and the Age of Napoleon.
The known and verifiable representatives
It's interesting. Just keep listening. Alexa, increase volume. I got to go get my hamburger.
of the French people. But people thought that was too radical. They dismissed it. Or here's another attempt, my favorite one. The legitimate assembly of the representatives of the larger part of the French nation acting in the absence of the smaller part. Accurate, but unwieldy. Finally, exhaustion set in, and one little-known deputy from central France had a simple idea: the National Assembly. Done. When he heard the news, Louis XVI dismissed these actions. His proclamation of a National Assembly to represent all of France. Louis said, it's just a phrase. But it was much, much more than a phrase. In fact, it was a revolutionary act. An act which laid the foundation for France's upcoming experiment in representative democracy. The new National Assembly claimed to represent the nation, to speak for the nation. They claimed sovereignty, the political right to govern. In a radical move, they took sovereignty from the king and they transferred it to the National Assembly. To cement this claim and give it weight, they took up Mirabeau's suggestion. They agreed that they would take on the burden of the national debt and the collection of taxes. The deputies would then be responsible for reforming the nation and solving its crisis. The commoners had thrown down the gauntlet with their bold move. What would happen next? 3 days later, on June 20th, the commoner deputies of the National Assembly went to their usual meeting hall, but they found that they were locked out. They were afraid that a royal coup was taking place against them. So they went to meet at a nearby indoor tennis court. I love it that one of the foundational political acts of France, this nation of not very athletic people, takes place in a tennis court. They were swept up in fervor. The assembly banded together and took an oath to God and nation, never to disband until they had written a new constitution for France. The neoclassical painter and revolutionary Jacques-Louis David made a famous sketch at the scene of the tennis court road for a future painting. His sketch captured the emotional power of the moment. Men from different walks of life turned to embrace one another, and others were taking the oath with their arms uplifted. It's a wave of fraternity, optimism, bravado, and the deputies vowed to build a new France.
This is actually quite interesting.
The deputies proclaimed, "Vive le roi! Long live the king! Long
No,
live the
they might. I might not have to.
No one
I don't know if I have the right to post this, or if you can even hear it.
Assembly with the centuries-old absolutist monarchy. The deputies imagined that their constitution would somehow allow them to conduct politics with the crown.
Alexa, pause. All right. Well, that might be the. I might have to redo this. I'll just. If they take it. This didn't have to be done. What's this about? It's about my little pocket knife. I've got a couple of them. This one's neat. Watch. It's like a switchblade, but it isn't. Evidently, it's not a button. It's like a little nub. You have to physically make it move. I got a lot of them. I like these. They're cheap. I mean, guns are so expensive, and I'm not supposed to have guns. In some states, you got to get a license, although that's very, very few states that you actually. I think Hawaii is the only one you have to have a license to have anything. This is a nice knife. Where I live, knives are pretty much not restricted. I don't know. I think switchblades are illegal. You're even allowed to carry them around. You are, but you're not. Though, if they think you're up to no good, you're going to be arrested. So I tend not to carry weapons. Mace is legal with a permit, although I found a way around that. But you know, crime. In some countries, like we'll say Austria, for example, we'll take an average, a fictional country. my fictional country, my fictional person. In Austria, you don't need a license or a permit to own like a bolt action rifle or a double barreled shotgun, or I think maybe even a lever action shotgun, as long as it isn't semi automatic. And pumps are illegal completely because something happened back in the 80s. Some gangster used a pump action rifle, and so they were just completely banned. It's virtually impossible to own a pump action rifle. That isn't the case here. I think in Australia they're banned unless you use them for hunting out in the. It's not the Pampa, it's not the Veld, it's the outback. Put a shrimp on the bobby, mate. Well, the South Africans have a Veld, and in our Argentina it's a Pampa. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you got vicious kangaroos or wild pigs or whatever, iguanas, large dinosaur iguanas or whatever the poor Australians have to deal with, you can get a permit for a semi-automatic, like what do they call them, AR-15 type rifle in 308 or 223, 22 Mag. I think you can get them in 22 Magnum, although I don't think you're supposed to be doing anything. I think they use 22 Magnum to hunt like vermin, like rats, and I don't know if they have gophers. What do they call them? Like prairie dogs. They've got all kinds of gnarly animals in Australia that'll kill you. That they have to have. You have to have pest control. So if you get say, I've got a business, a straight pull rifle, a pump action like something like a Remington 7615, just ain't gonna cut it. These things move fast, and I need something that'll shoot really fast. So fully automatic weapons are completely illegal, I guess, in Australia. But you can get a special permit, and I guess there are people that live out in the outback that have these jobs, and they're not government workers. It's not the government. It's a private company. You can get a permit, but it's for a very specific purpose. And I guess it's a rural place, and there are a number of people that have these pest control license. And you can own a pump, you can own a semi-automatic shotgun, you can own an AR-15 type rifle. But I don't know if they have a lot of gun clubs. People just like to go out in their land, and they have pump action rifles. Pump action shotguns are illegal, so they have what they call straight pull or lever action shotguns, which if you know what you're doing, you can shoot a lever action shotgun pretty fast. But even a pump, if you short stroke it, it's going to jam. Lever actions can be kind of tricky, and that's why generally they're just not made. It was something that was, I don't know, was invented simultaneously with the pump action shotgun, but the pump action shotgun worked a lot better. So you rarely see lever action shotguns, except like a 410 lever action. But in countries where pumps are illegal, you do still see lever action shotguns, because at least you get multiple shots as opposed to like a double barrel or a triple barrel. You don't need a permit for that. I mean, you need a license for everything, I think, in Britain and Australia. And they keep making the laws more restrictive. In the Czech Republic, you need a license, I think, maybe even for air guns. I don't know. But and they're not all equal. Some licenses are harder to get than others. But you can own a machine gun, and you can carry a handgun around with you. But you have to be vetted. You have to prove that you got the skills. You got to prove that you're not crazy or have a criminal record, or that you're a drunken wife beater. They want to make sure that you're responsible citizens. The Swiss are the same way. You have to get a Waffen permit. You have to get a permit from the government, or a license, depending on whether it's a handgun or a semi-automatic. I don't know if fully automatic weapons are still legal in Switzerland. They tinker with these laws to get around EU mandates. And so I've heard some Swiss say, yeah, they're still legal. It's just, you got another hoop. But some say that they're even easier to get in Switzerland than the United States, because we've got that restriction, or they've got that restriction. The Americans have that restriction that if a fully automatic weapon is made after 1986, it's illegal for a private citizen. If you have like a special license to buy and sell things, like if like someone has to sell stuff to the police and to the military, then you can own them. But a regular private citizen isn't going to get a license for a fully automatic modern weapon. And the old ones are like get more expensive every year. A lot of states ban fully automatic weapons, and I guess you've got some states with these assault weapons bans that restrict the number of magazines. I think in most EU countries there's a magazine restriction to 10, but you can get around that. I guess in Italy you can get a permit for the each and every 30 round magazine, or high capacity magazine requires a permit and needs to be registered. So I guess they solder a registration number onto each magazine. But they are legal, and I guess in some countries like Austria, if you can prove, or you can get a special permit if you do like a run and gun, and you need it for your specific sporting, and maybe you can have 5. I don't know what it is how the law is in France, but it used to be before they tightened up the restrictions on semi-automatic weapons. You could have a maximum of 5 30-round magazines for target shooting, or running, whatever that is, running around and shooting at a target. That thing they do with Ian McCullough when he goes to Finland and does that survival thing. I like my little knife, my little $5 knife. I don't need a permit to carry. If they catch you with it, that's good luck. They say it's legal to carry just about anything. Now, handguns are illegal in the United Kingdom. God, my skin itches. Yeah, I might lose my. I have to. It's like they have all these different categories of healthcare that you can apply for depending on what your income is. I make too much money, but I've got special health problems, so I can apply for a special government program. But I'm going to need help from the health ministry. Someone's going to help me fill out the forms, because it's like American Medicare. It covers like 80, or Australian Medicare. It covers 80%, but there's still that 20% that God, my skin itches. What am I? A qualified Medicare beneficiary, an SRS, some sort of. Oh, this is not good. This is not good. Okay. When the screen goes blank like that, I know my computer's dying. Okay, I got my food. Don't worry. My DoorDash arrived. Or our equivalent of DoorDash. Le DoorDash. Kind of expensive, and they expect you to tip. Which I don't. It's not required. Still expensive though, and all these little fees, the little fees. So, anyways, I was watching this guy in Austria, and it was basically a handgun, because their laws are restrictive. It's easier to get a .357 carbine, and it's like $2,000. Because when you go on your license, I think you're allowed to have like one handgun, and that's it, or one semi-automatic rifle, but there's some categories like bolt action or whatever. You can have as many as you want. Do they want to control people? Or no, maybe they don't want you selling them to criminals, or maybe they don't want a plethora of these really dangerous weapons out in society. Maybe it's just public order. They say, oh, they just want to control you. Well, if you're so irresponsible that you won't store your weapons properly and your kids get a hold of them, maybe you shouldn't have guns. You really shouldn't. It's like Americans. I don't understand how any society can function with that level of anarchy with firearms. And it's no wonder you have these horrible accidents all the time. And then you start screaming, freedom, the government's interfering with it. It's like, you know what? I'm a communitarian. I'm not saying a communist or socialist, but a communitarian. In order for society to function, there has to be rules and restrictions, and some level of redistribution. Because right now in the world, especially the rich and the poor, my prediction is it's why you see all of that. If people make other excuses, but even like in the Middle East or Ukraine or Taiwan, envy and inequality, people want what other people have. In order to maintain a certain amount of harmony in a society, even like Singapore, there has to be some minimal level of equity, or it's just going to tear the society apart. And you could say, well, they shouldn't be so. You know what? Fuck you. Practical thing is, it's why society in the United States, for example, it's a society that I know because I lived there for a long time. In my mind, I've lived there forever. Because it's a prison you just can't escape. But the United States was a nice place at one time. The New Deal years, I mean, I wasn't alive for all of it, but say from like after the war, 1945 to 1975, those were good years. As a large middle class, everybody had a house, everybody had a car, everybody could send their kids to college. The top tax bracket was 90 or 75%. There was a lot more redistribution. Now, it was really only 42, but you got to understand, if you want, and I know these numbers, you can say they're wrong, but the real numbers are now in the United States, the wealthy, instead of paying 42%, pay about 12. They pay less than the middle class. And why is this? Because they can. It's the same in Sweden. It's the same in most places in the world. The wealthy get breaks because they can. They can avoid paying taxes. Do we need them? I don't know. But that's in order to keep skilled people or to keep finances flowing, you have to make loopholes so that rich people can get away with hoarding money. Would we be better off if we lived in a world where there was a lot more redistribution? I think so. The world I grew up in as a young kid, we didn't know it, but people were prosperous. There was a lot more equity. Really, I mean, they were poor people, but they had, the war on poverty in the United States. And in Europe, you had a lot of social welfare programs. And Sweden, they say that they got too socialist, but the Social Democrats were in power between 1945 and 1975. It was called, you Google record years and go to Wikipedia, and you say, okay, Wikipedia is not a good source, but do some research on your own if you're an honest person. Sweden's economy grew like at 12.5% for years and years and years after World War II. Part of it was that they didn't suffer all the destruction, but a lot of countries that did had rapid growth too. Italy, France, Germany, Japan, all these countries that were just left in rubble, in a couple of years, they were very prosperous. They came back really quickly. And they had hot tax systems where the top tax bracket was anywhere between 50 75%. I think in some countries it was 90%. High economic growth, low unemployment, low poverty. What's this? God, I got these things all over me. Oh. It's high blood pressure, diabetes, lymphedema, cellulitis. You get old, necrosis sets in. Parts of you start to slowly die. I got this skin thing now. It's awful. I got this cream, but it's like, who wants to walk around all sticky? And you didn't even have any fun getting sticky, right? Okay, that's enough. That's enough. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So anyways, in some societies, social security systems have been privatized. And you can put your money in a private fund. Anyways, long story short, I just, everything came in as usual. And I'm still getting a full pension, the public and the money I put in a private fund. And I think if you're an American and you're listening, you should know this, that maybe partial privatization of your social security system would not be such a bad idea. Because if part of the money is going into an investment fund, that might pay off better than Social Security. Now, I'm not saying, I mean, the Swedes even do that, and Sweden's supposed to be that socialist country, right? Oh, I love my little knife. I love my little knife. This is going nowhere fast, but I will say this: I keep watching, and I shouldn't, because I apologize for some of the things I say. I just go crazy. I literally go crazy watching it, and the arrogance of people. They sound like Nazis. They really do. They sound like. I read someone saying, "Well, maybe if the people in Gaza are having trouble feeding themselves, they'll behave themselves and they won't try to kill us." Um, well, here's one analogy, and I'm not trying to justify what Hamas did, because I mean, for the sake of argument, I think people do, but I think in their heart of hearts they know that it's in the 21st century. This is just unacceptable behavior. We have to find some other. Maybe it was a cry for help, though, but I won't go so far as to say it was justified. I have a hard time going and saying I feel bad about this. I should just say I condemn it. It was wrong. It's terrorism. But I'd be dishonest if I said that. Maybe I should say that, but I don't really, in my heart of heart, believe anymore that it was an act of terrorism. I think it was a cry for help. When we were taking land from the Native Americans, they would do unspeakable things to white settlers. But even we realized a lot of that was we were taking their land, and they were outgunned. You know, we drove them to that. It's like the Israelis have driven Hamas to do those things. They took from day one. They were stealing land. They took land that he wasn't even agreed to in the UN agreement. And part of the problem with the UN agreement was 40% of the population was Jewish, and they were given 60% of the land. How is that even fair? So, and Jews and Muslims got along fine for like literally 1,000 years there. It was the Christians that were always, the Christians during the Inquisition were just slaughtering Jews, just unmercifully and the Muslims took them in. I think there's some something that you have to pay some fee. You're not really a full class citizen if you're not a Muslim, but so what? At least you're not being slaughtered. And I think there are problems in the Muslim world, but so what? The problems in the Christian world were like infinitely. Pogroms, the Holocaust, one after another. Jews were just slaughtered repeatedly, unmercifully. It's funny, everywhere they go. Everywhere you go. So the thought was that if they go to Israel, they'll finally be in a place and they can. But if you look at what really happened, it's like all the hatred all the violence against Jews is focused because of the crimes that the Israeli state has committed. I look at Hamas as like Chief Sitting Bull and Wounded Knee and all that. They did a lot of things to civilians that were pretty messed up. We forget about. But we also forget about the messed up things that we did to Native Americans. Probably worse. We wiped them out. We wiped them out. They didn't wipe us out. We wiped them out, okay? So who's the real savages? Who are the real savages? Now, there's no land that we can give back, and I would not be in favor of that because at this point it's not practical. Who are you going to give land back to? Alexa, what percentage of the American population is Native American?
According to the 2020 U.S. Census, the Native American population in the United States was 4.31 million people.
Alexa, what is the population of the United States?
In 2024, the population of the United States is 342 million people.
Alexa, what percentage of 342 is, what was that number? Alexa,
Yeah.
Alexa, what was the percentage of the American population that's Native American?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, according to the 2010 census, there are roughly 5,200,000 Native Americans living in the United States.
All right,
They
now
make up 1.6% of the U.S. population.
Okay, well, 1.6. Okay, at least we got a number there. I don't have to do it in my head or ask her. My hopefully I don't have Alzheimer's, but anyways, okay, it's like 1.6. You're going to give the whole country back to 1.6% of people living in trailer parks and reservations. I don't think so. But the situation's a little different in the Middle East. They said it was a desert, and obviously it wasn't. There is, Alexa, how many Palestinians are there in the world?
According to Wikipedia, as of 2019, there are approximately 13 million people of Palestinian descent in the world.
Alexa, how many Jews are there in the world?
According to the most recent data from 2020, there are approximately 14.8 million Jews in the world, representing 0.2% of the global population.
Now you see there, you got one situation where Native Americans are only 1.6% of the population, because we really did a number on them. It wasn't right. But that's the way the world was. You were stronger. I mean, look where my answers are from in France originally. France was originally a big Ireland. It was full of Celts, Brennus, the people that sacked Rome. And there was a Julius Caesar that invaded in, was it 50? Alexa, when was Vercingetorix defeated by Julius Caesar?
From Answers.com, Pompey was defeated by Julius Caesar in the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC.
No, that's not what I asked. Alexa, when was Vercingetorix defeated?
Getiorex was defeated in 1945 by Dumbledore.
This is great. Alexa, when was Gaul defeated and incorporated into the Roman Empire?
Gaul was conquered by Julius Caesar between the years 58 and 51 BC, after which it became a province of the Roman Empire.
All right, well, 50 BC, so it's like over 2,000 years ago. And then the Italians came into the Romans and they mixed. And for what, at least 500 years, Gaul was a province of Rome. Okay. And then my people, the Franks, descended like locusts onto Gaul. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest was 9 AD. Alexa, when did the Franks invade Gaul?
The Franks invaded Gaul, which was later known as France, in 476 AD. This was the final collapse of the Western Roman Empire and marked the rise of the Frankish kingdom. The Franks were a Germanic tribe who invaded Gaul from across the Rhine River and established their kingdom in the region.
Okay, those are my people. All right, behaving really badly. But those were the Germans that finally mixed in and made France. So who gets to have land? People who can hold it, I guess. So does that mean the Jews have a right to just take over somebody else's? That's by the old rules. Like ever since the Enlightenment and democracy and human rights, we have tried, not always successfully, we've abolished slavery, to modify those rules so that there's some modicum of decency. Colonialism is what Israel is. It's colonial. Let's look at it as colonialism because it really is. Jews are basically white people. They don't look. I mean, the Sephardic Jews. There are some Jews that belong there. Now let's try to get this straight. Judaism is not a race. It's not a nation. It's a religion. And there's some Jews that have blonde hair and blue eyes and make me look like a Negro or the Dago that I am. You should see how curly my hair is. You put me out in the sun. Not now, I'm a little pale. But I turn brown like a Mexican. This is awfully racist stuff. I've got people in my family that are so pale that their skin will literally peel off. They can't go out in direct sunlight like vampires. They have to have like parasols and stuff. And other members of my family, like my grandfather, God rest his soul, who I love dearly, like me, dark, curly hair, and we're a little more tan. It just pops up every once in a while. But that's in the blood, We're not, I don't know if, it's a little, what do they call it? Olive skin or swarthy? So that's like France, right? I mean, some people have blonde hair and blue eyes, like Marie Christine Barreau, and then you've got like Marion Cotillard, who's a little darker, like Italian looking. So that's there's no pure race. Race is kind of a social construct, and we're so obsessed with it now. Reparations and this and that, and you're a white oppressor, and it's like, well, if race is a social construct and doesn't exist, then what are you giving me? What are you bitching at me for being white for when I'm really not? Well, actually, I am. 23 and me, it's like 96.5% Nazi German, and then there's some Scandinavian, and then there's some stuff I just don't want to talk about because I don't feel like hiding in an attic when Trump, who knows what's going to happen, and you bad mouthing your own people. It's like that one drop rule that if you had one drop of black blood, you were considered a Negro, which is awful. And now it's like you have one drop of white. I don't know what the rules are, but they're stupid. We're just all people. Not all Jews support the state of Israel, and not all Jews are Sephardic, or what is it, Yazidi? Alexa, what does Yazidi mean?
The name Ziggy is a nickname that means victorious protector and is of German origin. It is often used as a short form of the name Sebastian or other names that start with the letter Z.
Yeah, all right, I give up. They're just too many names, and there are too many different groups, and there are religions, and we should all get along and love each other. It's like the Belgians and the Belgians. They're Dutch and French and German, or the Swiss. They're Germans and Italians and French, and they all live peacefully together in their own country together. So it is possible, and trust me, Belgium's a good example of this. I don't want to use Northern Ireland, but even Northern Ireland, the Catholics and the Protestants, for I wouldn't say good reasons, but it wasn't even a religious thing. It was actually the Anglo-Normans who were Catholic at the time and conquered Ireland, and they had the Pope's blessing. Doesn't mean it's right, but it means it was just long before there was even a Protestant religion to do that. That's colonialism. The British just doing horrible things to the Irish, and they shouldn't be there, but they still are, and they've come to an agreement. And Catholics are actually a majority in Northern Ireland now, and the plurality of political parties are nationalists. There are ways that the situation in Ireland could be, not in Ireland, in the Middle East that could be settled without treating Palestinians like second-class citizens. I wouldn't say that the Dutch and the French are the same as the Jews and the Palestinians, but they hate each other. And that's basically me, the Dutch and the French, right here in front of you. But they freaking hate each other. The French consider the Dutch to be greedy, money-grubbing, obsessed, Calvin. Well, I guess they're all Catholics. And they smell like cheese, for God's sakes. I mean, they're not even good cheese, bad cheese. Like Roquefort, only it's Gouda. The Dutch consider the French to be lazy, dirty, oversexed, and looking for a hand. I mean, really, they look down at the French as if, like the things that Americans say about African Americans or Mexicans. They're really racist. I mean, the English are too. They consider the French to be something that you scrape off the bottom of your shoe, or when you're cleaning your toilet, or after you've had a hot night out and you've got to wash your underpants. That's how they feel about the French. I mean, they're really bigoted about it. But they got problems, and they're about to split, but they're not killing each other, for God's sakes. They're not like raping and barbecuing each other and starving each other. It's embarrassing in this day and age to watch both the Palestinians and the Jews just slaughter each other. It's like we're back at square one. It's like the most it's like the Nazis were embarrassing. You've got these highfalutin, high-tech tools, and you're just busy, wiping out the Poles, wiping out the Russians, wiping out the Jews, wiping out the Gypsies, wiping out the homosexuals, wiping out the old people, wiping out the disabled people. Just the most vicious, barbaric, pagan urges. And that was basically a pagan urge. The Vikings would toss little English babies up in the air and slice them in half just to test the sharpness of their blade. They had they really had no sense of compassion, and they were extremely feared, really feared. But look at the Swedes now. Everybody admires them. They're like the ideal people, except for the fact that now they've got neo Nazis running the country because they've let in so many Muslims. They've got like Malmo is like a war zone. You know, people throwing grenades at each other. Now, is that racial? Probably not, because in Lebanon you've got Christians that are the same race, and they don't do that. I think there is something culturally in the Islamic religion that keeps society, anti-modern, anti-technical. I'm just going to say it because I feel it, and I'm old. And come at me. I've got my combat pocket knife here, so I'm ready for you. I've got my mace, which is kind of a sideline. I can get that for you wholesale. See, if guns are if there are restrictions on guns, one, the price of them goes up, and the other is you just can't readily go on the black. Oh, here's another thing that I've got, and I don't even know if these things are legal, but I can get I can get more if you want them. I got them online, for God's sakes. They don't sell them on Amazon. But I thought they were some kind of a taser thing. I think they cheated me, but it's like, I'm not sure they're supposed to be able to send them into this jurisdiction. But these are brass knuckles. Okay? So if you want, I can get you some of these. Wholesale. Hey, a man's going to make a living. I'm not trying to sell them online. Don't get me wrong. This isn't selling anything online. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if one had a connection, one could do that. But don't send me offers. Don't say, can you send? Because I didn't do that. I'm just saying that's for informational purposes. That's how the black market works, not me. Or, I'm not selling it, but this is a nice thing I got on Amazon. It's to trim my beard, which I haven't done in a while. Nothing illegal about that. Can't be used as a weapon. But at least I don't look like a caveman. And again, please don't send me any letters if you're a caveman. If you want to look like a caveman, that's fine. I make a very unattractive caveman. We got to figure out, Americans, you've got to figure out something to do about the Jews. I'm not saying like really bad, but I think it's right. If you cut, it's like that guy in Iran said, if you cut the Jews off for for 2 weeks, military aid, they'd collapse. They'd have to come to the table and negotiate. And say, well, that's not fair. It's, you know what? Just say to them, too bad. You figure you're smart, and you're smart people. You made a nice country there. And that's the other thing that just drives me around the bend. Oh, look what we've done with this land. It wasn't a desert. But look how nice we made it. It's like, okay, you know what? It reminds me of a Jerry Seinfeld episode where his mechanic is just giving Jerry a hard time because Jerry doesn't take care of his Volvo. He's just let his Volvo go to, that sounds dirty, doesn't it? Or the time that Jerry's Volvo was stolen and the guy wouldn't return it. And I guess he returns Kramer's gloves. He says, I don't think I'm going to return it. I like your car. So Jerry's mechanic runs off with his car. And why? Because Jerry's not taking care of it properly. But guess that's not how it works. You don't get to steal things and say, look, I built this nice house over here on this land that you just had a teepee on your land. And, it was very primitive, and you weren't really doing anything but hunting and fishing on your land. I built this nice resort over here. I built this radio station. Look, there's a casino and a resort. Look at all the wonderful things that I've done on your land. So, you know what? Your land is now my land because you weren't doing anything with it. Or, someone steals your car and says, look, I put new brakes. I put new windshield wipers. I put new one of your front lights was out. Your emergency lights, your bright lights were out. Your brakes were bad. Your tail light was broken. You had a crack in your windshield. But it was a nice car, and I fixed it up, and so now it's mine. You still stole it. Doesn't matter how nice you fixed it up, you're still a fucking thief. All right? And it's easy when for 80 years the Germans have been bled practically dry with reparations, and the United States has been giving you aid. Amazing. You're just amazing. You made a nice country, even though you guilted white Europeans out of all this money, which the Palestinians never had that advantage. And the thing is, though, I think Jews or Israelis or whatever are perfectly. They have a standard of living. Alexa, what is the GDP per capita of Israel?
As of the most recent data available, 2022, Israel's GDP per capita was $54,930 US. GDP per capita is common proxy for income per person.
Alexa, what is the GDP per capita of Germany?
As of the most recent data available, 2022, Germany's GDP per capita was $48,720 US.
I think that's a little
GDP
off.
per capita is common proxy for income per person.
But you get that according to the figures that she just gave you, and I think they're off actually, because if you go to the Heritage Foundation, that might be purchasing power parity. The German GDP is a little higher. This is why statistics are often questioned and you should, because they vary. Okay, let's go, for example, since nobody watches this, I gotta take these things off. I can't see for shit. Oh, that's the wrong one. I like the way I look with those shades, but I can't really see for shit. Okay, index of economic. Yeah, I can't see. Economic freedom. Heritage Foundation. Because this is pretty. I mean, if you're conservative watching this, I think you'll. Oh, okay. Singapore is the number one country. Ooh, Switzerland, Ireland's really up there. Taiwan, they're all doing very good. Wonder what made Singapore go down so much. It used to be like 9. Let me take a look at this. I'm surprised it dropped so dramatically. Yes, it's way above the world or regional average. Okay. Scores over. Oh yeah, look at this. It's way, way down. What the hell happened? At one time it was 89.7, and now it's 83. What happened to Singapore? Still, it's the best in the world. You can't. I mean, that's the best. I mean, that's. If you're a business person, that according to the Heritage Foundation, that's the best you're going to get. Second is Switzerland, then it's Ireland, then it's Taiwan. New Zealand used to be. I wonder what happened to New Zealand. Ooh, Canada's way down the list now. Chile, Bulgaria, Cuba, 25. Yeah, I'm surprised Cuba's as high as that. Let's take a look at Cuba. Cuba's economic freedom score is 25.7, making its economy the 175th freest in the 2024 Index of Economic Freedom. Its rating has increased 1.4 points from last year. It is ranked 32nd out of 32nd countries in the American region. Yeah, it's like dead last. This is like the worst your economy can do. You can't do much worse than this. Oh, it was up to 35. That's pretty impressive. What was this, 27? Yeah. And not 24.3. Now it's really doing bad. Okay. It does all right with trade. It's okay with trade, evidently. Okay. State-run economy performs very poorly, and its component scores are far below world averages in many categories. The absence of an independent fair judiciary weakens the rule of law. Private sector has long been shackled by state control. Regulatory efficiency remains poor. Private entrepreneurship is limited. The application of regulations is okay. State-controlled labor market, but there is a private sector. It just isn't very big. And why should we give a shit? What about New Zealand though? New Zealand used to be a very socialist country, and like in 1980, they had a good portion of their economy was state-run. New Zealand, and then they reversed, and it became like the exact opposite. Okay, 51,000 per capita. What number is it though? It's number 6. That's still pretty good. That's still pretty good. Where's Estonia? Okay, how Australia used to be really. Okay, that's how do you spell Australia? 13. What the hell happened to them? They're way down the list now. You know, they used to have a list you could just look. You didn't have to go like, where is everything? View rankings for all countries. Yeah, but they're not ranked. They're all they're by alphabetical order. Overall government spending, government integrity. Oh, okay. This ranks them. Okay. Overall score. Okay, I see how this works. Singapore, Taiwan, Luxembourg, News. Okay, Luxembourg is good. Estonia, Denmark. The Netherlands is. I got family from there. They hate me, but that's all right. Fuck you. Oh, 70,000. See, it's a wealthy country. They don't work a lot. They're not lazy, but they've got a work-life balance. They got the shortest work week. Unemployment 4%. Inflation, ooh, that's high, 11. But still, 70,000. That's comparable to the United States. The United States is 76. So they're like 90. They've got like 90% of what we do. It's not bad, considering they work like half as long as we do. When they do work, they're very hardworking people, the Dutch, and very industrious and very good at buying and selling things, which is like where I get my ability to buy and sell things. Where the hell? Okay, Germany. Okay, let's take a look. That's what we were going to do. Okay, according to this, the GDP per capita of Germany is 64,000. The Index of Economic Freedom. So you're wrong. It's not 48. Alexa, what is the GDP per capita of France?
In 2022, the GDP per capita of France was $40,890. This figure indicates the average income of each person in France.
According to this, it's 56,000, so you're off. Now let's do Israel. Alexa, what is the GDP per capita of Israel?
As of the most recent data available, 2022, Israel's GDP per capita was $54,930.
I bet you it's gone down.
GDP per capita is common proxy for income per person.
51. Here it says 51. Well, I bet a lot of that's the fact that they're at war. Yeah, let's see where they're ranking. Oh, their ranking went up. That's weird. They fell out of moderately free, and they're mostly free. This is very. If you want to look at something interesting, go to the Heritage Foundation's Index of Economic Freedom. You can say it's biased or whatever, but they're just telling you how easy it is to do business there. And, well, Ireland has a pretty good welfare state. Taiwan has Medicare for all. They've got the thing that they say makes Bernie Sanders a communist. And Jesus, look at 69,000 per capita. Their per capita in unemployment is 3.7. Look at Taiwan. Yeah, it'd be a shame to let the Chinese have Taiwan. What an ideal. Alexa, what is the income tax rate in Taiwan?
Taiwan has a progressive personal income tax system in which the average tax rate increases as the taxable income increases. Taiwan has marginal tax rates ranging between 5% and 40%.
Yeah, see, it's not like Taiwan has a great economy, but it's not like Taiwan is like this laissez-faire place. They tax. They have universal health care. Guns are completely illegal. All right, where are we on this list? We're 25th, which isn't too bad. We're mostly free, which isn't really shabby, but it's nothing to write home about, really. Canada does better than we do, doesn't it? Where's Canada on this list? Yeah, 16. They're higher up on the list than we are. 58. Why is Canada so poor? I mean, not that 58,000 is so poor, but like we're 70s. They're a lot lower than we are. But that doesn't always translate. So you can have a very low standard of living, not low, but I mean lower standard of living, and still have a better quality of life. There are a lot of countries that do that. The houses might not be as big, the cars might not be as big, but you got your health care, you got your education, things are a little more equitable, there isn't so much crime. So how do you solve the situation in Israel? Do you just tell them? I mean, realistically, Israel isn't going anywhere. They're not packing up and moving. But I think that's what the Americans should do. They should say, look, if you don't make a serious effort for a two-state solution, or maybe do what the Swiss or the Belgians do and just lump everybody together and let them vote. I mean, the French complain that they don't have the same rights as the Dutch, but everybody gets one vote. I don't know how that'd work. Probably end up eating each other. But the French and the Dutch seem to be able, and the Swiss. I mean, it's like even in Northern Ireland, they manage to have come to an agreement. Why can't you? You know, and don't put it all on the Palestinians. Oh well, they won't. I get so sick of hearing that because I know, and this is going to get in trouble for, but there's sneaky stuff behind the scenes. The state of Israel has never bargained in good faith, not once. It's always what we didn't what. Hamas exists because Israel wants Hamas to exist. They want to say, look, see what they did? We can't have a two. It's like you don't want a two-state solution. So behind the scene, it's like what we did with Al Qaeda. Did we want Al Qaeda? I'm not sure we wanted it. As some people say, we wanted it so we have an excuse to invade and take their oil. I think it was blowback. We were just so obsessed with trying to get rid of communism that we created a Frankenstein monster. And I think that's what Israel's done with Hamas. They're just so busy trying to figure out a way to make the Palestinians look bad. The Palestinians are like a little puppy that got kicked. Just like the Jews were like in the Holocaust, were like a little puppy that got really badly mistreated. You kick a dog, you make the dog mean. And that's what you've done with the Palestinians. Of course, they did terrible things. I'll tell you another thing, though. Nobody wants to talk about, but it's really true. A lot of those deaths on October 7th, I don't know about the rapes. I'm not going to say that was made up, but I think it was at least exaggerated. I think somebody needs to look into whether a lot of those reports are even true. But the IDF showed up, and they've got a policy known as the Hannibal Doctrine. Now, you look into that, because that's very important. There was a lot of collateral damage on October 7th, and there were tanks, and there were helicopters that were blowing things up. And besides, the kibbutz, they were just a bunch of hippies anyways. You killed your own people, Israel. So fuck you. People know what you did, and now you're lying about it. Now you want to paint the Palestinians as a bunch of animals. Well, I don't know. You stick somebody in a cage and you poke them with sharp sticks, and you starve them and you beat them and you rape their women. How the hell do you expect them to act? I don't feel sorry for Israel anymore. Not one little bit. All my sympathy's gone. It's completely and utterly gone, and I'm nothing but disgusted. And I'm just saying, maybe I permanently, my solution would be is just cut them off completely, no more aid. I'm not in a position to do that. I probably get killed for even saying it. I don't think we should go and arm the Hamas, because then I'd have to feel sorry for the Jews again. It's just like whoever's on top is going to be brutal. It's not like the Muslims have moral superiority. I'm sure that if you gave Hamas and the Palestinians the upper hand, they would be just as brutal, if not more so, and then I'd end up hating them. But I'll tell you what our role in all of this should be. Nothing. Fuck both of you. Kill each other for all I care. But don't do it with my money, and don't do it with my weapons that my society created, or that Americans created. I didn't build the weapons. But if I would say just for a minute that I'm an American and I pay lots of taxes, and if you're watching, this is what I would say: do it yourself. If you are a Jew, you send money to Israel, or you better yet, you move there and you do your own dirty work. But don't expect Americans to. And maybe we should be like Switzerland more. I mean, they say that that's why we got Hitler, was because we just pulled out of Europe and we wouldn't have anything. That isolationism can be toxic. But look, Ukraine. How long is that war in Ukraine going to go on? But I get it. They're suffering. Russia's aggressive. Who are they going to attack next? Poland? We don't know. I'm not sure I buy the fact that Russia's just, feels threatened and is defending itself. I'm really worried about Russia. But they're cutting off people's health care. They're dipping into people's pensions. Poor people are getting their money cut. And where is it going? It's going to Ukraine to bomb Russia. It's going to the Middle East to literally starve poor little Palestinians to death. It's just not right. So what America should do is, and this is another thing that sounds Republican, but I'm going to say it anyways. And God, please God, I would, don't make me vote for Trump. I would vote for Biden, I think, if he was a dead, senile corpse crapping in his pants over Trump. But God, I have to be honest again. The border, the defund the police, this transgender. There's so many crazy things that the Democrats have done. I'm still pro-labor. I'm for pro-unions and, Medicare for all and all that stuff. And some form of gun control. Maybe not banning, but some kind of licensing. But I think I am a lot more conservative. This whole defund the police and open borders and it's crazy. It's like it really is. It's like they're busy trying to destroy the country. Does that mean I want to vote for a corrupt child rapist like Trump? The thing about Trump is you can't trust him because he's corrupt. He talks a good line to a lot of feeble-minded people, but he'd be terrible. I don't think he knows what he's doing, and he'd alternate between being very aggressive and being isolationist. Maybe a more conventional Republican like Nikki Haley. I think I might vote for her. Anybody but Trump. But those troops should be home guarding the American border. They should. They shouldn't be in the Middle East. They shouldn't be in Ukraine. And I don't know what's going to happen in Ukraine. It's terrible. But how long are we going to fund that war? How long is it going to go on? We thought we were going to wear Russia down. That's what Hitler thought. Everybody thinks, oh, the Russians, they're subhumans. They're cowards. They're not cowards. Don't ever say that about the Russians. And don't say, they are a little crude. They are crude people. But the Russians are not stupid. They made the MiG, the T-40 tank. Maybe they didn't originate the technology because they were at an advantage being a little less developed than us. But they're very much smart enough to reverse engineer it. And don't say that that's not smart. In order to figure out how to copy something, there was a saying Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal and make an idea their own. Even in order to steal an idea, you got to at least be smart enough to copy it. I don't want to be racist and put a society down, but I mean, you don't see Lesotho or Guatemala stealing technology and copying it. Although I think the Cubans do a good job, have done a good job of stealing microchips. And it's not because those people are stupid. It's just that their societies are very, on a low level of technology, less advanced. But they don't have scientists there or an infrastructure that can copy things. The Russians always did, and they were very, very good at copying our technology. And they might not have been on par with us, but they were pretty damn close. They weren't subhuman. They had the T-34 tank. The Russians, I mean, the Germans really, when the Red Army came in, the Germans kind of deserved all all those terrible things that happened to them, because they had done even worse things to the Russians. They really had. I don't feel sorry for the Germans, and I am mostly German. I don't feel sorry for the Germans when the Red Army came in and raped and pillaged and just did all kinds of ghastly things. What the hell did you expect the Red Army to do after what you'd done to them? What did you expect them to do? Say, we're here, we're going to, all's forgiven, we're going to liberate you because we realize that you really didn't love Hitler. What do you expect the Palestinians to do? But I'm not going to put myself in the position of the Israelis, because I really do think that the Israelis are kind of like Germany in World War II. You're the aggressor, you're the transgressor. I hate to say you're collectively guilty, but you are collectively punishing all the people in Gaza, and that's a war crime. And that's what the Germans did to you, and that's what the Russians did to the Germans. Collective punishment. And it just pains me that society in general, we're still doing these really, really backwards things. It's embarrassing. The Nazis were embarrassing. That wasn't that long ago. What's going on in the Middle East, because that's the human race. Bosnia, Northern Ireland, Ukraine. We haven't learned. We're still fancy monkeys. We're still those apes like in 2001 at the watering hole, throwing bones and rocks at each other. Come on, are we better? The thing is, are we better than that? You better pray that there's a God in heaven, and that he's been, watching, going, all right, let's give them a chance to settle this on their own. I'm not saying there is, but I'm at a point now in old age with my feet and forgiving my sins, and I could have lived a better life, so I feel bad. I pray there is a God in heaven, and he will straighten this whole mess out. And here's the thing about Judaism. And I'm not against the Jews, but I was watching the Buri Karta and this Rabbi Jacob Shapiro. And what they're saying is Judaism is not a race or a nationality, it's a religion. And that their interpretation, although they don't consider it interpretation, I don't either. I think this is if you read the Torah or the Old Testament, it says that Jews are to have been sent into exile not by the Romans, but by God. By God. They're being punished by God, and God forgive me for even, but it's not me, it's God. It says that if you read in certain interpretations of the Old Testament, is that God, because there's some descriptions of the Holocaust, or that can be interpreted as the Holocaust, I guess, and it can be interpreted as God either allowing that or having some active role in that punishment. He works in mysterious ways. But also and that's terrible. I mean, I'm not for doing it to any. I wouldn't do that to my worst enemy. I really wouldn't. That's just horrible. Oh, the other thing is that Hitler, they tested his DNA, his family. I don't know where they got it, direct relatives. He was part Jewish, and he was actually part either Negro or Northern African. So, like, there's your master. There's no such thing as a pure race. I guess I'm less Jewish than Hitler was. Although I don't think I got any African blood. It's mostly German. But I was more German. Let's put it this way. I was more German than Hitler was. He was worried, and he was right to worry. Hitler was a half-breed Jew. He was. no such thing as a pure race. There's no such thing. Heydrich, a lot of those top Nazis, they tested the DNA of people that are alive today, and there's not a lot, but there's Jewish blood all over the place. It's just everywhere. Because Germany at one time was a very assimilated. Jews were very assimilated. They were treated very equally. It was a very cosmopolitan country. Jews were not treated. It was a Balfour Agreement. The Germans felt betrayed in World War One because Lord Balfour promised the Jews a homeland, and the Jews kind of went with the English, and the Germans felt that they'd been disloyal. The whole dual loyalty thing. Like that guy, what's his name, Pollard or Pollock? I saw him. He's still alive. The one that we put in jail forever. He was a traitor. We should have executed him. He sold technological secrets to either, was it Israel? I don't know if it was the Soviet Union. I think some of those secrets ended up in the Soviet Union because they wanted to trade the secrets for Russian Jews. But it was bad. And he's saying that the Irish should take the Palestinians. This guy is a traitor. He shouldn't be alive. And what the Bible says is, along with the whole exile being God's will, and a lot of Jews accept that, is that God commands them, if you want to be redeemed in my eyes, if you want to ever be my chosen people again, live amongst the Gentiles, be good citizens, set an example, and don't cause trouble. Be loyal citizens there. And you can only go back to Israel when I tell you you can, which is when the Messiah comes. And if you interpret the Bible that strict way, that these rabbinical scholars, the Jewish scholars, God bless them, most respect to you, namaste, for studying the words of God. And I think there's got to be some God in the Jewish, the true Torah Jews that obey the Bible. I mean, I'm not for like wrapping women up and treating them that way. I'm not for that. But there's something we've lost in secular society. I think there's something very capitalistic and brutal and self-serving. We've become too individualistic and too greedy. I think that the old societies before the Enlightenment, the one advantage look at the Amish, they're pre-Enlightenment. People live for the community. They don't live for themselves. Even the rich people. There was a sense of an organic community. And today, we've lost that. It's every man for himself. I think socialism was kind of a very imperfect way of trying to... It's like feminism was an imperfect way of bringing some sort of decency back. And how? They were very much against pornography. They're very much against women being raped and mistreated. And good for you. Why would anybody be for rape? But there are... You hear people arguing that, women are just basically receptacles. I mean, they say vulgar things, like they're just receptacles for men's sperm. If you say that, you don't even deserve to be breathing. You are a disgusting pig. And that's why we have the enmity between men and women we have now. It's because of filth like you who say such disgusting, sexist, no respect. The old societies, they weren't equal, but everybody, I remember my aunt telling me about in the old days, back in the old country, the aristocrats, and she went on this whole row of these little houses. They looked like not like little shacks. Well, they weren't shacks because they'd been there for hundreds of years, but they weren't big. And they said that's where the poor, if you were poor and you were like, disabled like I am, you couldn't walk, you couldn't feed yourself, you're too old to take care of yourself, and you had no family. The aristocrats created these little homes and people would feed you. Obviously, you wouldn't have a great life, but you weren't begging on the street. They had a system where everybody was kind of taken care of. And I think that's what's morphed into these Northern European welfare states. Because they were always, everybody was supposed to be looking out for everybody else, which is nice. And if you look at these ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities, they're like that too. Everybody looks. They're places where you can go if you've got no place else to go, and you got no family, and you're hungry, and maybe you've been homeless. All you got to do is walk in there, and they'll take care of you as long as you're a good, obedient Jew, and you follow the Torah laws and the commandments, and you keep kashrus, and you're not dressed up in a bikini or whatever. You go into these neighborhoods, they have signs that, you must dress. They don't say please; they say you must dress modestly, and no Zionists beyond this point. Uh, these are neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and they're not Palestinian neighborhoods; they're Jewish neighborhoods, and they post Palestinian flags. And if you ask them why, they say the state of Israel is a heresy according to the Bible. And originally, this is nothing against the Jewish people. This is just what they themselves said. When the whole idea of Zionism, which, by the way, was not Theodore Herzl's idea, it was a Protestant idea. Let's just say, I'm going to say it's a heresy, but some people consider it a heresy. Really, it's like the rapture. There's no biblical justification. There's no biblical. Oh, look at that. That's where the They misinterpreted the Bible terribly. There's nothing in the Bible that said there's going to be and he was taken up into heaven. The rapture is not a thing. Okay, it's not a real thing. What the devil? Huh. Okay, wait. And as far as Zionism goes, see, Protestants think that the Messiah has come, obviously. Well, all Christians do. Jesus Christ was the Messiah. Some Christians are like me, and they say Jews have turned their back on Jesus. They are no longer God's chosen people. They're the Antichrist now, and God hates them, and we should just, they use that to justify the Holocaust. Let's not go there. That's, I don't believe that if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. It doesn't matter what I believe. I can believe anything I want. It doesn't make it true. But I'm kind of a Buddhist. I'm not even sure that there is a heaven or hell. Maybe we just reincarnate till we reach nirvana. Nobody knows. Maybe there's just some cosmic joker that thinks this is all funny and I pick my nose again. I don't know, but I think there's something. I'm not an atheist. I think there's got to be something. Do I have any evidence of that? Yeah, yes, I kind of do. The Big Bang, where did that come from? The fact that there's a part of your brain that lights up in religious people, you can see it like blinking, makes people happy. The fact that atheists have very high suicide rates and high rates of drug abuse and venereal disease. They go out looking for fun, and life is meaningless to them. Religious people live longer. They did a thing on the diet, like Costa Rica, Greece, Italy, Japan, and someplace in California, where people had very simple diets, like corn, very organic food. Some didn't drink, others drank moderately, like in Greece. Some their life was just centered around making wine and having a couple drinks a day. So if you do it moderately, it's not going to kill you. But the studies show that alcohol is not healthy. It's not good. It's not a food group. It's not going to improve your life. So if you can avoid it at all costs. But the thing is, though, if you lead a good life otherwise, and you have family and friends, and you have a good diet, and maybe just take a drink every once in a while to relax, it's not going to hurt you that much. There are really old people that have a drink every once in a while. So I don't think any of them smoke. Really don't think a lot of them are cigar smokers or chain smokers. You're not going to find a. Although Blake was like 94, and I don't think he even know how old he was, but he smoked cigarettes. But that's hard on your body, man. It's hard on your body. Anyways, the Bible says that the Jews cannot have a state till the Messiah comes. Now, the Protestants thought that the Messiah had come, and that in order for Jesus to come back, all the Jews had to be gathered in Israel. This is their wacko interpretation of the Bible. I don't know. I'm not a biblical scholar. So they wanted this to happen. It was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then they got in with Theodor Herzl and these atheist Jews. I don't know if they're atheists, but they weren't very religious, who wanted a home. They figured, everybody hates us. We'll just go and live someplace else. And a lot of anti-Semites in Europe thought that was great. Good. We'll get all the Jews out of Europe. We'll get all the Jews out of the United States, and they can go live in Israel. Fuck them. That's where we'll send them. We'll get rid of them. It'll be somebody, and that'll be somebody else's problem. But then, for some reason, we've got to send them military aid, and we've created this horrible, horrible problem. My point being is that not all Germans are Nazis, and I'm just going to say it. I'm trying to be objective, but the Nazis were horrible, horrible people. They did monstrous, monstrous things. Oh, they did good things too. They built the Autobahn, the Volkswagen, the V2 rocket, the Messerschmitt 262. Did the Zionists do great? Oh, the Zionists did the same things as the Nazis. They did great things. They built museums. They built they built these skyscrapers. They built universities. They built high tech. They invented you didn't invent the internet. It was the French. So Google Socrates, okay? The modern internet did not come from DARPA. That was very crude. The first people to have a system like the internet that could be worked cheaply were the French, and it was called Socrates. So we did that, okay? Wasn't you. But there's a lot of high-tech stuff around Tel Aviv. It's a very advanced society. Does that give you a right to kill and enslave other people? You know, because that's what the Nazis, they were going to teach the Poles how to count to 10. Fucking Germans. They're monsters. But were all Germans monsters? I'm sure a lot of them didn't go along with that. But that's monstrous. And what you're doing to the Palestinians is monstrous. Now, did the Palestinians misbehave on October? I'm not going to say that they were heroes or try to hem and haw and say that they didn't do really ghastly things. But at the same time, let's be objective. The Hannibal Doctrine and the fact that the IDF did show up. They didn't. I don't think they used flamethrowers, but they had Apache helicopters. They had tanks, and that's why you had cars blown up, and that's why you had bodies burned beyond recognition. That was the IDF, and you lied about that. You can't be trusted. Why should I trust anything that the Israeli government says? Because you lie constantly. Now, do I automatically believe anything that Hamas says? They're not my heroes. You both disgust me. I'm judging both of you the same way I judged Germans that were a member of the Nazi Party. Shame on you. Really, shame. But I'm just going to say it. If you're a Zionist, you're in the same league as a Nazi. You really are. And you use the same arguments. We're so much better. We're superior. They're animals. They're subhuman. Look at all the advancements. We've got Tel Aviv. We've got the internet, which you did not invent. It was my people, the French. We invented the internet. Socrates. You did not invent the internet. Fuck you. That was us. We're smarter than you think. It's just not fromage. It's not just fancy croissants where we do other things other than cook. Although we got to say it, if you're an Italian, you're listening to this, or Mexican, you got the French beat on cooking. The most advanced societies in the world are not Israel or Germany, because I mean lox and bagels, big deal. The Italians, no, they're cooks. The Mexicans, they can cook. Societies that can make a decent, tasty meal for not a lot of money, those are the advanced societies. You're much more advanced than any society that I come from. We're just, even the French, which is a very sophisticated society, but in a way that sophistication, it's kind of like German engineering. It's very nice, but it's over-engineered. It's why, a Panzer tank was much better than a Sherman, but we could make 10 of them, and they could only make one. And quantity has a quality also. And the Sherman tank was not a shitty tank. It was a good tank. It was small, and it had to be small to be transported. It was very mobile. It could move around. It could sneak around the big Panzer tank and fuck it in the ass, and boom. I mean, pardon my French, but that's basically what you had. 4 Sherman tanks that were like a boom, boom, boom. They were taking out, and while they were taking out these 4 tanks, another Sherman tank would quickly maneuver around and shoot a cannon shell up the tuchus of the big German tank, and boom. That's how we beat the Germans. quantity, the arsenal of democracy. But they were very arrogant. Oh, our technology's better. Yeah, but you couldn't invent the bomb, could you? Huh? How smart were you? Heavy water. Heavy water my ass. You went up the wrong alley, huh? You don't want to admit. See, that was the thing, though. They gave us all their Jewish physicists. Yeah, that's what makes America great. They came over here and built the bomb for us. Well, they stole it. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, they stole it. But let's give them credit. I mean, we wouldn't even have the bomb in the first place if it wasn't for the Jews, because they're smart people, and they gave us the Jews. But let's remember the Germans. The Germans built the rockets so we could go to the moon. And I know you say it didn't happen, but what do you think an intercontinental ICBM is? Are you saying that they don't exist? So you take the Germans who think they're superior, and you take the Jews who think they're superior, and you take the atom bomb of the Jews and the rocket of the Germans, these wonderful superior people. And what do you have? You have the destruction of the whole world. Thank you very much, chosen people. Thank you very much, master race. That's what you get from these so supposedly superior societies. Me, I would rather go and have a nice Italian plate of spaghetti or a nice Mexican burrito and listen to some mariachi music or the theme from The Godfather. Ennio Morricone. Alexa, go play some music from an Ennio Morricone, and that's how we're going to end it, on Civilization.
I couldn't find Civilization, but here is other music by Ennio Morricone.
This is a civilized society that can give. I mean, Bach, Beethoven, fuck all of them. This is my dude right here. This is music. Listen. If they find our society lying in ruins 1,000 years from now in some alien lands, says, what do these fuck? Look what these fucks did. They blew the planet to bits. A lot of societies do that. What is left? What can we remember these people by? What did they accomplish? What good did they do? This is the good that we did. This is the best, the finest, the highest epitome of the human race. Alexa, increase the volume. Alexa, increase the volume. This music, a plate of spaghetti, and my pocket knife. If you're watching this in the future and the human race has completely annihilated itself, remember that we did this. We had this. And fuck you, the French invented the internet. Where's the off button?